Alafia, I'm Philip Neimark, and welcome to one more iteration of the weekly Ifascope. Making a slight adjustment or change in the format or the way that I present this after, I guess, 30-some years of doing it every single week at no cost to the public in an attempt to show people the power and the beauty of Ifa. But as society has become more complex, and I guess it's because I have gotten older, I'm 74 years old now, and some things seem very clear to me that probably would never have occurred to me in the past. And third, perhaps most important, I think it's a terrible mistake to always underestimate the intelligence of the people tuning in to get the information. I mean, the old format was fine, but the old format didn't cover more than 15 or 20% of what the power and the beauty of Ifa can bring to you. And so I'm going to add a little bit each and every week, and we're going to see if it makes sense and you can get there. It's worth the trip. This week, the general information is contained in an Urdu called Ika Okanra. Now, basically, that would say, they would tell you a story about it, or somebody would leaf through his book. It's read like a parrot, and tell you what that meant. But the truth, of course, it's a little bit different each and every week, each and every time, each and every place, each and every moment that it's done. So we want to take that into consideration, but we also want to take into consideration the way that the Odu have changed over the years. They have the same, by the way, general rules, which they've always had. But new rules come into play. They come into play depending upon the society, depending upon the technology, depending upon the politics, depending upon a whole bunch of things. And therefore, over a period of time, and I've seen this happen, I mean, sometimes it can take 20 years to develop, or 30 years, but suddenly it is developed at that, and you have to take and give consideration to that development. In this case, the development is, first of all, an Ika. Ika, while in its historical meaning, is all about pleasant and nice, and watching for the new things to take place, etc., etc., etc. It has come to mean make a different decision. Why? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. First of all, we probably make 10,000 decisions today, which we never used to make when Ifa was active in the African society of 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. In those days, it was simply a matter of, were we healthy? Was there a marriage this year? Were the crops going to be successful? There were certain basic questions. And as it became more complex in society, the questions became more difficult to ask. More thought had to go into them. And now today, in my country, in the 21st century here, if you think about the decisions that we have to make, let me give you a simple example. You want to change your phones, right? In the old days, and not old in Ifas sense, but 15, 20 years ago, you would call the phone company and you would get a different phone. You could then get a designer phone. You could, and now, of course, everybody has cell phones, and that requires a cell phone carrier. It requires a decision about a cell phone that you're going to buy. I mean, there are 50 decisions based upon what we're going to use to communicate with other people. So therefore, the decisions have become myriad, not simplistic. And if we treat them simplistically as an or-do, we're going to get bitten. We're going to get bitten in the backside, and it's going to hurt a little bit. Or we're going to see that, hey, we could have gotten more out of it, we should have gotten more out of it, something like that. So instead, I take these observations that the Foundation has made over the last 40 years, and I try to put them into a sense of the cosmic convolution for you, a sense of propriety, a sense of belonging, a sense of understanding, a sense of all these things in this ever-changing, myriad, kaleidoscopic world that we live in. And basically, it can be stripped down to, when you see this or-do, or when this or-do comes up, you have to think for a moment. You have to pause. That's a hard thing with the or-dos. You have to pause for a moment. And in that pause, you have to think, is this similar to, or perhaps exact in nature to something that happened in my past? And if it is, and you'll be surprised how many times it is, or it wouldn't come up, then it's incumbent upon you to make a different decision today than you did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago, or whatever. Maybe you weren't prepared to make a decision. Maybe you didn't even know a decision was necessary at the time. Maybe you were unable to carry out what was necessary to make that decision. But the point is that today, with this or-do, you have to look at it and you have to change your decision-making process in a way that you choose a path that not only opens up the path to the greatest possible gain, but tends to remove or to obviate the other path, the other perhaps discomfort that you feel for not having made the right decision at that point in time. Now, Chiron, on the emotional spiritual side, is a complex sign. It is the female Babalao sign in Ifa. Yes, women can become initiated as in Ifes, as feminine Babalaos, who can do everything that the male can other than see or-do. But here, when it's cast, and if it's cast, and if it's a man reading this, it means be more empathetic. Don't be the big bopper. Be more empathetic. Use your power and your wisdom and your knowledge and all these things to listen carefully to what other people say, to listen to see how they feel, how they think. And in this moment of empathy, instead of power, a great deal can be accomplished. If you're a woman, it says it's time to step up to the plate. It's time not to be aggressive. Aggressive is a word you got to throw out. We never want to be aggressive, but we do want to be assertive. And in being assertive as a woman, what you're doing is you're making sure that you're asking for that which you think is rightfully yours. That's a mouthful for the first week, I guess, but that's basically what this or-do means. And it comes in Ray with ancestral support. And the area of influence is in relationships, where the result of following these things is going to be greater introspection on our temporal everyday side and endless opportunities on our emotional spiritual side. It's nice. It's great. But understanding it and understanding how we get there and understanding exactly what it means, that's the trick. And that's the beauty. And that's the power of Ifa. So, this week, take down your ancestors from their altar or go to the altar or whatever serves you. Light a white candle, tea candle is fine, and make an offering. And I don't tell you what offering you should make. They're your ancestors. Mine love liquors, cigars, all kinds of things like that. But yours might like something else. And when you're making a decision, reach inside. Think about it. Relate to who and what it is and what they're doing. And ask them to give you the strength, the wisdom, the understanding to either as a man be more empathetic or as a woman to be more assertive, and to make decisions today differently than you would have made them in the past. We'll see how this works out. That each and every facet that I gave you, by the way, carries the same kind of understanding that I tried to explain within primary Odu. And as we get along more, we're going to explain more. Hang on, it's worth the journey. Until then, love and blessings.